You're listening to Lead Through Strengths, where you'll learn to apply your greatest strengths at work. I'm your host, Lisa Cummings, and I'm always telling you, it's hard to find something more energizing than using your natural talents every day at work. Well, something that's just about as energizing as when I get to hang out with my other host here in the room, TyAnn Osborn.
Hi.
Today, we're going to talk about a topic that we haven't decided yet because I am going to use this spin the wheel thingy to tell us. Oh yeah, the wheel of fun, the wheel of strengths.
I like the sounds.
Ooh, it says, you don't like a teammate.
Oof.
So today we're going to talk about what you could do with your strengths when you don't like one of your teammates.
Okay.
Has this ever happened to you, Ty?
No, I've always loved everyone that I worked with.
But I bet one of your clients has had this situation since you've never had it. Right. Wink, wink.
Of course, there's always someone that for just some reason maybe rubs you the wrong way. You just, they're not your love language. And I work with clients all the time who there's always seems to be someone on the team who they just can't seem to get along with. Has this ever happened to you too?
Definitely. I mean, It's funny because I feel like one of my personal, like a big thing about me is that I love people and I love most people.
Right.
But there are people that I don't jive with as well.
Yeah.
And it takes some extra effort to understand where they're coming from or really feel like, I don't get them or something like that.
That's interesting when you're an individual contributor, when you feel that way, because you're like, maybe that's just Tim, but when you're a manager and you think, I'm supposed to like everybody on the team, or I need to not show favoritism, but I kind of don't like that person. What do? It's kind of like being a parent. You're not supposed to not like one of your kids. So,
or not have a favorite.
Or not have a favorite.
Okay, so let's do a scenario. Okay. Let's do it like you're a manager.
Yep.
You happen to have done Clifton Strengths as a team.
Because you're a great manager.
Because you're awesome. And there is a person on your team that you appreciate as a human, but as a performer, they feel very high maintenance to you. Mm-hmm. They drive you kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. Let's pick some talent themes that might be seemingly opposite each other so we can make it a real scenario.
Okay.
What does one pop up for you as one that is least likely to be paired with another?
I see deliberative a lot as kind of being a problem child, especially when a lot of other people on the team might be more, we'll say, activator, or something that's very forward in motion, either achiever, activator, something like that. So maybe you've got a team that's like, we're always ready to go. And there's one person who's like, wah, wah. Mm-hmm. Seems like they never can just get on the bus. And they're always the one dragging their heels.
Yeah. Oh, we should do this one both directions just to fully vet it. When you're the manager, let's take achiever, activator.
Okay.
And then let's take deliberative and say these are the two different people.
Okay.
And we can start with the manager having achiever, activator, wanting stuff to get done quickly.
Yeah.
And wanting to make decisions quickly.
Okay.
And the person who wants to take a little more time.
Yeah.
Is the team member who reports to you.
And then
we're going to swap it.
Okay. I've got a real life on that too.
Awesome.
So,
okay.
Absolutely.
So you're my manager.
Okay.
You're achiever, activator.
Woohoo. Let's get going, man. Come on.
And I'm saying, well, I'm going to miss that deadline that you gave me.
Lisa, what's going on? I gave you the deadline. Come on. Chop, chop.
Well, the thing is, I could get it done, but I can't get it done properly right now because we don't have all of the information. I've been trying to work with this other department. They've been dragging their heels. I'm waiting for them. If I do it now, I might just be giving you completely incorrect information because I'm seeing 3 or 4 ways this could all go wrong if I lays ahead today. And it feels like I'm just going to be wasting time.
Oh my God, Lisa, all I hear is excuses. I got stuff to get done too. We owe the marketing department this stuff. They're waiting on us to get this stuff into print. We're behind already. And you know what? You're never going to have 100% confidence in what you do. So just get me something.
Mm. And now if we come out of our sort of characters of our role play, I would say you were kind of playing like the in-betweener manager where you were trying to give the people listening to the podcast like a little bit of the glimpse of inside your head, but also be somewhat mature, like in how you would, because you're balancing the two, and what the inside voice and the outside voice are really different. Can you explain what was going on fully inside voice, unfiltered? Yeah. And then how, if you wanted to maturely talk to me and still keep me engaged, how that might look?
I think that's a good point, because hopefully, as you progress in your career, you just don't say the first thing that pops into your head. I always say there's the reason why there's a little space between your head and your mouth. Got to have a little filter in there. But inside your head, it's very normal to be like, oh my God, you are so frustrating. I gave you the deadline. Why didn't you say something sooner? You always do this. You always do this. And all I'm hearing is excuses. Now you're throwing this other department under the bus. I cannot count on you. The rest of the team, we're getting it done too. And we have to deal with the same things. So typically what I see when I see this combination of strengths is a lot of frustration. That is usually the emotion that I see a lot, is frustration. Whoever has the action is like, I'm just really angry with you. And whoever's on the receiving side, well, we can debrief how you feel, but usually it's a lot of frustration on that side too. So that's kind of what's happening inside. And then on the outside, but I'm trying to be a good manager, and I'm trying not to just say, oh my God, you're such an idiot and I hate you. Because I would never say that to someone, but I'm trying to say, of course, we're never going to have 100% confidence in what we do, because that's not real life. So we have to get to a point where we may feel 80% confident. And how do we do that? And two, you can't always have an excuse for why things aren't happening. Like, you have to take ownership of something too. So that's what I was trying to moderate in the message. Mm-hmm. So you could feel some of that.
Yeah. And I put you on the spot, and I know we didn't pre-plan. Right. Are you giving me the well thought out? I've been thinking about how I'm going to coach you and how we can improve this over time versus the in the moment, like, you just missed a really important deadline and you didn't tell me. I'm so upset.
And now my butt's in the sling because of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear things from managers like everybody else can do it. You're the only one. And then you don't want to give that as feedback. To the person. Or you start hearing that that relationship language, like always and never, which we say, anytime you start hearing always and never, that should be a clue. But when you definitely start feeling, alarm bells should go off. But when you start feeling inside like, oh my God, you're always the problem. You're the problem employee. Everyone else can get it done on time. How come you can't? Mm-hmm. Then that's when you start hearing things like, Lisa's got to go. Right. My employee, I always call it my employee's broken. I want a new one syndrome. And, that might be an answer, but I don't want that to be the first answer. To me, I want that to be the last answer. Mm-hmm. And I would like to try and see, can this marriage be saved before we go to it's broken? Yeah. Because it takes a lot of effort to get another employee. Oh, yeah. And I might have something valuable to offer you with my deliberative talent. Yes, absolutely. And I might sit in the seat. Okay, here's what I would say. Like, what would be in my head if I were this team member? Yeah. I would be thinking, other people get it done on time. And all of my teammates, always, never, all of my teammates give crappy work. I'm on a team where no one cares about quality. Mm-hmm. All they care about is speed. Mm-hmm. We do so many things 3 or 4 or 5 times because we refuse to do it right the first time, because we won't take an extra minute to get the information from the other department or fix that relationship that's creating the block that won't let us get the information. Mm-hmm. And anytime I bring up the what ifs or this might go wrong, people treat me like I'm the negative Nelly. So I just shut down and don't say anything. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean I want to give you bad work. Mm-hmm. So you're surrounded by people that you think are giving half-assing it.
And I always say, why half-ass when you can whole-ass? Because you're right, then you're probably seeing a bunch of rework that has to happen, when if we just put in the correct effort to begin with, that wouldn't happen. But meanwhile, you've shut down.
I've shut down.
Because you've been shut down.
Yes. And I might be thinking, leading through deliberative, seeing all of the activity that is resulting in my opinion, bad quality work out there. Now I'm thinking, oh, look, the whole team is running around like chickens with their head cut off. Looks totally foolish. I'm the only one actually putting reasoning behind what we're doing. I'm the only one who's thinking. I'm the only one who's bringing some rigor to this process.
Right.
And no one's valuing it. And then I'm thinking, well, clearly I'm not a good fit for the job or the company or the team or maybe my manager. But if the whole team I perceive is like that.
Yeah.
And maybe they are like that, or maybe they've just conformed to your behavior because as a manager, you've been so strong in your speed.
Right.
At least you're clear. So that I'm grateful for in our opposite.
So you said two things that were really, I thought, interesting. In the scenario, you talked about this, you were waiting on something from another team. So you were the only person who brought up even an interaction with another team. So to me, that says you were thinking a little more systemically, holistically about something. So maybe these other guys should have been interacting with this other team and they haven't been. So there's something going on there that should be paid attention to. But you also said something about maybe the rest of the team, they actually know things should be being done differently too. But here's what you find in a team. People want to please the manager. Because why? Because we are self-serving creatures. We do self-preservation activities because that's what helps keep us alive. And at work, that's what helps keep us employed.
You're writing my performance review.
You're writing my review. You're helping me keep this job. You're helping me get paid more. And so it's not that there's a diabolical plot. It's just we are human beings and we are doing these behaviors because if that's what you want from me, that's what I'm going to deliver. Even if I know there's something else that's possibly better.
Oh, it could even be, especially what if I think, I need you to think I'm a good performer because if I want to change roles because this one isn't a good fit for me, I need you to...
You got to support me.
Yeah, I need your support to move into another team. And when the next manager asks how I am as a performer, I want you to say how amazing I am, not that I was your highest maintenance team member.
Right. So even if I thought you would be good for another role, they're going to say, what was Lisa's performance on your team? And I'm going to have to say, Lisa was the worst performer. Who's going to want to take my lowest performer? That's going to be a much harder sell.
Yeah.
And so you end up with kind of these, I always call them like aberrant behaviors. And again, not because people are diabolical or someone's sitting around trying to figure out, the worst way to do things. It's self-preservation and action. And so if we don't make a conscious effort to really stop and think about things, this is what happens unintentionally. So at the end of the day, you have good ideas probably that aren't being heard. People are running off half-cocked and, there's a bunch of rework. It's probably not very high quality. Ultimately, it's just not the best product and not the best environment, or certainly not as good as it could be. So that's what we tend to see.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's, even though this could be a perfectly good place to end it, let's make sure that we've flipped the scenario because I think it's a good example for people to experience when the same situation exists, but the themes are flipped around because it can just change the whole scene of how the team culture looks. You actually said you have a real example of this. So is that a shareable example if it's anonymized?
Absolutely. So I had this happen and it doesn't often happen this way, but it did. And I thought it was a good story. I was working with a news crew. So the people you see on TV to put out the news, and the manager was very high deliberative.
Okay.
And the news people, as you can imagine, very high action oriented. I mean, and it was a newsroom. It was very much, we have to get this on the air right now. I mean, it was very high pressured. And so deliberative, we know, doesn't like high pressure, needs time to think, really wants to make sure all the facts are correct, would hate to put something out and have it be wrong. So that was the manager. So the manager was feeling like, I am working with a bunch of people who don't care about quality, are willing to be excessively risky with the reputation of our brand, because we might have to put a retraction out on the air, and that we're just going to be putting stuff out there that's half-baked. And I work with a bunch of people who I can't trust. Meanwhile, the reporters were saying, our manager is a wet blanket. Every time we take him a really cool idea, his first reaction is no. Or he asks me 17,000 questions that I haven't fully thought through. I don't have the answers to. So he makes me feel stupid. Or he makes me feel like by the time I get through all of his questions, you know what, the moment's passed. Like it doesn't even matter anymore. Or he'll never get back to me at all. And so there was this just huge conflict between them, with none of them feeling valued on the team. But the funny thing is, I wasn't called in because they're to do a remediation or a problem. I was called in because they were all high performers. So that was a really interesting one to step into.
Yeah. And what you're bringing up for me is this idea that it really doesn't matter what the themes are or what the job is, because you can take any of your top talent themes and they could be applied to serve any role. Because it's easy to get caught up in this thing where we're like, on this team, this group of them feels bad and this group of them feels right. Or for this manager, these serve me and these are not serving me. Right. But the reality is what they're supposed to be and what they are for us, if we allow them to be, is our easy buttons to performance.
Yeah.
It's this concept of, well, maybe it's gone wild. It's like strength's gone wild. Right. So if they could be honed in a little bit, both things that you were just bringing up in that scenario are valuable to the organization.
Right.
It's just all of them can't be on blast all the time.
All the time. Right. So you talk about, keys on a keyboard, and when we play them together and they're harmonious, we've got some good chords going, it sounds awesome. Right. And so you're right. It's not that there's good strengths and bad strengths, or that, these things are naturally in conflict. It's just kind of finding that right level, because I don't think anyone would say, yeah, we're just going to slap junk on the TV. And if it's not right, well, who cares? I mean, no one's going to say that, right? And no one's going to say, well, we're going to chase down every possible lead until we get 100%, confidence in this. And meanwhile, it's just going to be black on TV until we feel like we're 100% confident, because that's not realistic either, right? So ideally, it would be great to feel like we can work with the pace that we need to and put out really quality content that I feel good about. And in the event of an escape, or a quality issue, we have a good process in place to catch that and to do whatever we need to make a quick correction.
Yes.
And so what I got them to do was I got him to sort of codify his thinking process. And I said, what are the top 3 questions you usually ask when someone comes to you with a new idea? And he said, well, I just wish people had thought through things a little bit better. So I wish they would think about this, this, and this. I said, great, let's capture that. Let's get that out to the team so that they can do that thinking and you don't have to. And that's easy. And I said, how long would it take you, and what kind of commitment could you make to get back to the team then when they come to you with ideas? What would feel good and realistic? And he said, I could get back to people within 24 hours. I said, okay. So we went back to the team, said, is that a commitment that's workable for you? So we had both sides kind of, I wouldn't even say it's a compromise, because it didn't feel like anyone was giving something up. It just felt more like communication so that together we're better. And it was like a light bulb went on in terms of, now it didn't feel like I was just doing things the hard way. Like it didn't feel like a struggle every day. Mm-hmm. It felt like people were almost looking for that next opportunity so that they could test the stuff out.
Yeah. Love it. So when you think about action items to give people, I think that as you walk away from this episode and you're thinking, what can I do with this? Okay, yes, I have the person that I feel a little opposite of at work. getting in that process of codifying your thought process or opening up that conversation with the team to codify theirs. Because when people frustrate each other, it's the same frustration over and over again. It's just that they haven't figured out how to talk about it yet. Right. And then often they'll bring in they'll bring in someone like you to say, oh, can you help us communicate better? Because we haven't been facing the tough conversation with each other. Right. So I love that there's the facilitated process that could happen. And by the way, you can bring Ty in to your organization to do this if you need help and it just still feels awkward for you to do it.
Always happy to come in and facilitate awkward conversations.
You are our number one awkward conversation facilitator.
I could totally do that, but you can start this on your own as well.
Yeah. I think if I were to leave any parting kind of thought process for the person who's trying to do it on their own first, before they blow up to the team or before they verbalize the feedback to someone else, it would be really get clear. Is it because my personal preferences are different from the business priority? It's personal preference, business priority. Which is which? Are they not the same? And if they're not, that can be okay. You just have to get clear with yourself to go, I get it. This is what I would rather it be like, but it's not like that because it's real life. Right. So I need to proceed like this. And then as I proceed like this with the business preference, because it's my job, it's what they're paying me for, then can I see some positive intent coming from that other person? Like, what are they actually aiming for here? Even though it's making me upset or making me feel frustrated, what are they trying to do that has good intent? Because nearly always, I'm sure not always, there are nefarious characters out there somewhere, but nearly always people have good intent. Yep. With these things that don't align.
That's one of my favorite things is assume positive intent, because believe me, your life will be much better when you do. It's amazing how many people that I run into don't or do think someone's out there trying to get them. Believe me, the vast majority of people go to work and they want to do a good job. So let's assume positive intent. And I think that's just it. When you feel yourself getting anxious, or you see that team member and you can just feel yourself getting triggered, or that thing happens again and you feel it in yourself, that's a really good moment to think, what is it specifically that is triggering me about this? And again, it doesn't have to be they are an awful human being. It's just something in them is different than how you would react in that situation. So I think stop, think about what it is, think about the good thing that they bring. And then again, what problem are we trying to solve? What's our ultimate goal? And how can we both get there together?
What a perfect way to end this one. Yay. Yeah. So next time that comes up for you, be thinking of the other person. What's the positive intent? Where are they coming from? That is good. And how could that, if you know in talent theme language, then what are they trying to accomplish? And since you already have the talent themes in a list, you might get some ideas about where they're coming from. Right. Because sometimes you do feel a little baffled at the beginning. Like, why do they act like this? Or why do they think like this? Or why do they approach work like this? And even just going to someone else's report and going, oh, they think this way.
Reading the report's a really good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Understanding the other person. All right. With that, you've been listening to Lead Through Strengths, where you've been getting on with learning to apply your greatest strengths to make your work stronger. And now also looking at other people's strengths and trying to notice those so that the whole team can get better together. Thanks, Ty.
Thanks, Lisa.